A strange glow appeared above the Earth, which astronomers from all countries and continents of our planet could not explain. The inhabitants of our planet looked up at the sky with growing anxiety as the light grew brighter with each passing day and night. Every night, scientists recorded new anomalies, satellites lost contact, and instruments showed impossible temperature readings. The temperatures of outer space no longer existed in the usual sense, and matter behaved unpredictably everywhere. Strange phenomena began to occur everywhere. Objects hovered in the air, water flowed upward, and time seemed to slow down gradually. Gradually, people realized that they were facing something beyond comprehension, a force capable of changing reality itself forever. The familiar world changed forever when the anomaly reached the atmosphere and began to slowly distort the space around it. Slowly but surely, the boundary between reality and the impossible was erased, turning the planet into a place of paradoxes and wonders. There were more and more wonders and horrors. In some cities, time stood still, while in others, centuries flew by in a matter of moments. Moments stretched into eternity for those who found themselves in the zone of maximum distortion, where the laws of physics lost all meaning. Billions of people questioned the meaning of existence as they watched everything they had previously considered unshakable collapse. The previously unshakable truths of science turned to dust in the face of an anomaly that demonstrated power over matter and energy. The anomaly fed on energy of unfathomable power, expanding and steadily capturing new territories of the planet day after day. The moment when the entire Earth would be under the influence of the distortion was steadily approaching, and humanity was searching everywhere for ways to survive. Scientific teams were formed everywhere, trying to understand the nature of the phenomenon and find a way to urgently counter the impending catastrophe. Solutions were urgently needed, but every attempt to study the anomaly ended with new mysteries and even greater uncertainty. There were always daredevils willing to enter the distortion zone to collect data, but many of them never returned. Only a few returned, and their stories were frightening. They described worlds where the past and future existed simultaneously, side by side. Spaces appeared alongside ordinary reality where different laws applied, and human consciousness expanded to cosmic proportions. No one could accurately predict the scale of the catastrophe because the anomaly behaved chaotically, changing the rules of the game every second. People had to relearn how to live in a world where gravity could disappear at any moment, and matter sometimes became ghostly. At times, it seemed as if the universe itself was conducting an experiment on Earth, testing humanity's resilience and ability to adapt quickly. The psychology of society changed rapidly. Some fell into panic and despair, while others saw the anomaly as a chance for constant transformation. New theories about the nature of the phenomenon constantly emerged, from alien intervention to a rupture in the fabric of the multiverse itself. The biggest mystery remained the question, was this a coincidence or a deliberate act of a mind completely beyond human comprehension? The perception of time completely changed for those who lived on the border of the distortion zones, where seconds could suddenly last for years. It suddenly became clear that the old ways of thinking no longer worked, and humanity needed a new philosophy of existence in a changed world. A world where cause and effect were confused, where the past could be changed, and the future had already happened somewhere nearby in parallel. Parallel to the physical changes, mental changes also took place. People began to perceive reality differently, to see deeper connections between events. Delving deeper into the nature of the anomaly, scientists discovered that it reacted to human consciousness, changing strangely in response. Strange but true, collective thoughts and emotions influenced the behavior of the distortion, creating zones of relative stability, sometimes quite unexpectedly. Hope suddenly appeared. If consciousness affects the anomaly, perhaps humanity is capable of directing its power in the right direction. The course of events began to change when people across the planet began to unite in groups for daily meditation and concentration of thought. Every day, millions of people focused on the image of stability and harmony, trying to tame the chaos of the cosmic anomaly with sheer willpower. Experiments with consciousness continued persistently, and gradually the first results appeared. Some areas of distortion became slightly more predictable and stable. Life became more stable in protected enclaves, where people learned to coexist with the anomaly, using its properties for creation. The new era demanded creation. Architects designed buildings that took into account the distortions of space, creating impossible structures never seen before. Never before had humanity faced the need to rethink the foundations of existence so radically and profoundly, everywhere at once. It immediately became clear that the old civilization had died, and in its place, a new one was being born, adapted to the changed reality of the world. The old world no longer existed, but people found beauty in this chaos. Sunsets now lasted for hours and were extraordinarily beautiful. The streams of time intertwined beautifully, creating patterns visible to the naked eye, reminding us of the fluidity and changeability of all things. Nothing remained as it had been before, but new forms of life appeared, born from the fusion of matter and the energy of a strange anomaly. Creatures of strange beauty inhabited the areas of maximum distortion, demonstrating that life will always find a way, even in impossible conditions, always adapting. Adapting to new realities, humanity has developed abilities that were previously considered science fiction. Telepathy, foresight, and the control of matter through the power of thought. Thoughts gained material power in the distortion zones, where intention could directly and instantly change the structure of matter and the course of events. The fates of entire communities changed instantly when they realized their new power and responsibility to use the possibilities of distortion correctly. Philosophers and mystics tried to understand the nature of the anomaly, seeing it not as a threat, but as an opportunity for the evolution of human consciousness. The future of humanity now depended not on technology, but on the ability to unite mind and will to create a new reality together. Together, people discovered that the anomaly was a mirror reflecting the collective unconscious of civilization, with all its fears and hopes inside. Within each person, dormant abilities to perceive the multidimensionality of reality and see the connections between the past and the future much more clearly awakened. The concept of personality became much more complex when the boundaries between individual and collective consciousness began to blur gradually in areas of distortion. A new understanding gradually formed. Perhaps humanity had always been part of something bigger, and the anomaly had simply opened the world's eyes. The world needed a new ethic of existence in conditions where actions could have unpredictable and complex consequences across space and time. It was difficult to accept that free will now carried responsibility not only for the present, but also for a multitude of parallel realities. There were more and more realities, branching and intertwining, creating an endless network of possibilities and options for the development of events, constantly expanding. As it expanded, the anomaly began to interact with the sun, causing flares that added new dimensions to the already existing distortions of space very sharply. The planet's climate changed dramatically. In some places, eternal spring reigned, while in others, all seasons changed incredibly quickly in a single day. Children born after the anomaly began learned to adapt quickly, for whom the distorted reality was the only known norm and always natural. It was natural for them to move between layers of reality, see the probabilities of the future, and communicate telepathically with ease. What the older generation had worked on for years came easily to them, proving that human evolution had accelerated many times over under the influence of the anomaly. The anomaly had even changed basic instincts. Survival now depended not on strength, but on flexibility of consciousness and openness to the new. The new generation had to decide what the world would be like after its complete transformation. Chaos of endless possibilities or harmony of orderly diversity of realities. There were practically no realities of the old type left, only small enclaves where distortions were minimal, carefully preserving the memory of the former world. By preserving traditions, These communities tried to maintain a connection with the past, but even they could not completely avoid the influence of the constant anomaly. The entire planet was undergoing constant transformation, and it became clear that the process was irreversible. Humanity had long since passed the point of no return. It was no longer possible to return to the old life, and few wanted to, because the new reality opened up incredible opportunities everywhere. Centers for studying the new laws of existence sprang up everywhere, where people learned to navigate multidimensional space and skillfully control the probabilities of events. Those who skillfully used the power of anomalies created works of art that existed simultaneously in several dimensions, accessible to perception on many levels at once. Several great composers wrote music that sounded different depending on the listener's temporal layer, but always incredibly harmonious. There were always skeptics who warned of the dangers of diving too deeply into the altered reality, but their voices gradually grew quieter. Gradually, society divided into those who accepted the transformation completely and those who stubbornly tried to preserve human identity in its previous form. Those who stubbornly resisted change created protected zones with artificially stabilized space-time, but this required enormous and constant effort. The question of the nature of humanity in the new conditions required continuous debate. Would people remain human while acquiring cosmic abilities to understand the world? The old definitions of the world became blurred when it was discovered that the anomaly connected Earth with other dimensions where other forms of intelligence existed in parallel. Other civilizations developed in parallel with human civilization, and now it was possible to make contact through bridges of distorted space that were gradually establishing themselves everywhere. Attempts to communicate with other forms of consciousness inhabiting layers of reality, previously inaccessible to ordinary perception, began everywhere. The closed borders between worlds no longer existed, and this opened up both opportunities for the exchange of knowledge and the risks of cultural misunderstanding. Cultures based on completely different principles of existence, where time is non-linear and individuality is a relative concept for a collective mind that is always united. A united effort was required to create protocols for communicating with entities whose nature was so different from that of humans that communication itself had to be reinvented. The concepts of good and evil were redefined in the context of a multidimensional reality, where every action had consequences in countless branches of the future. There were more and more branching paths of development, and humanity realized that its choices affected not only its own destiny, but that of the entire planet. The entire universe turned out to be connected through a network of anomalies similar to Earth's, creating a cosmic web of interconnected realities and dimensions expanding infinitely everywhere. Expanding horizons of knowledge opened up the prospect that Earth was just one point in an infinite network of consciousnesses exploring the nature of eternal existence. The universe turned out to be an everlasting experiment, and humanity, undergoing transformation, was only one of countless participants in a process happening everywhere simultaneously. At the same time, civilizations in different parts of the cosmos were going through similar trials, and through an anomaly, humanity gained access to this experience. The experience of millennia of other races that had undergone transformation and found new forms of existence beyond matter and time in pure consciousness. Some people saw pure energy consciousness as the ultimate goal of evolution, voluntarily abandoning their physical form and transitioning to a state of quantum superposition. Those who voluntarily chose this path described it as liberation from limitations, but also as the loss of something important, a unique connection. The connection with the material world, which gives a special quality of experience, is inaccessible to incorporeal forms of existence in the higher dimensions of reality, which are constantly changing and eternal. The ever-changing reality required humanity to constantly adapt, and in this process, a new type of mind was born, flexible and incredibly adaptive. The adaptive intelligence of the new era did not cling to dogmas and absolutes, understanding that truth is multifaceted and always depends on the point of observation. The relative nature of truth in a multidimensional reality forced a rethinking of the concept of knowledge. It was no longer the accumulation of facts that was important, but rather the skillful navigation of probabilities. Skillful navigation through a sea of possibilities became the main skill for survival and development in a world where the future is fluid and constantly subject to influence. The constant emergence of new versions of reality created the effect of endless branching of destinies, and each consciousness learned to track its own line amid the chaos. No one could escape the chaos of probabilities, but there was beauty in it. Every moment contained an infinity of potentially wonderful outcomes. Beautiful and terrible at the same time, because freedom of choice in a multidimensional reality carried cosmic-scale responsibility for all versions of the future at once. Immediately after realizing this responsibility, humanity entered a new phase of development, characterized by a deep ethic of cause and effect that was widespread everywhere. The practice of foreseeing consequences not only in the current reality, but also in parallel branches became widespread, which required incredible concentration at all times. Multidimensional ethics, which always demanded attention, became the basis of a new social contract, where everyone was responsible for the harmony of many worlds existing side by side. Alongside the material world, there were layers of pure information where thoughts took shape and structure, creating living landscapes of concepts. Living thought forms inhabited the information dimensions, and people learned to interact with them, creating an incredibly productive and fruitful symbiosis of consciousness and ideas. The fruitful exchange between levels of reality led to an explosion of creativity. Art, science, and philosophy merged into a single field of knowledge that was comprehensive and omnipresent. Everywhere, there was a sense of something greater, the collective mind of the planet, formed from billions of consciousnesses connected by an anomaly into a single network that was gradually strengthening. Some welcomed the strengthening connection between individuals as the next step in evolution, while others feared the loss of individual uniqueness in an ever-consuming collective. There were constant discussions about the balance between unity and individuality, because the new reality required both at the same time, always in harmony. There were always those who withdrew into deep isolation, refusing to connect with the collective mind, jealously guarding their own separateness. The continuous flow of the planet's consciousness respected their choice, because the diversity of experience enriched the common field of understanding of reality in all its manifestations everywhere. Everywhere you looked, life had adapted to the new conditions. Plants grew in impossible forms. Animals developed the ability to teleport spontaneously over short distances. Spontaneous mutation accelerated evolution millions of times under the influence of the anomaly, creating biological diversity that surpassed anything that had ever existed before. Life forms that had once existed seemed primitive compared to the new ones, combining organic matter and energy in amazing combinations that were incredibly complex and unique. Each distortion zone gave birth to unique creatures, and ecosystems became increasingly fantastic, resembling living works of art that were constantly changing and unpredictable. The unpredictably evolving biosphere required a new approach to the concept of nature conservation. How to protect something that is constantly transforming itself spontaneously. Spontaneously emerging ecosystems sometimes existed for only a few days, then transformed into something completely different, continuing the cycle of rebirth, endless, ubiquitous, always. An ever-changing world became the norm, and humanity learned to appreciate the beauty of the moment, not clinging to a permanence that no longer existed anywhere. There were no guarantees of stability anywhere, but paradoxically, this brought liberation from the fear of change and opened the way to true flexibility of existence. Existence in a flow of constant transformation required a new type of wisdom, the ability to dance with chaos, finding harmony in the ever-smooth movement itself. In the smooth flow of events, people learned to distinguish patterns and rhythms, creating a semblance of predictability in a sea of chance and a choice of endless possibilities. There were countless possibilities, and the art of living became the art of conscious choice, creating reality through the effort of collective, powerful intention. The powerful potential of human consciousness proved sufficient not only to survive in abnormal conditions, but also to thrive, turning challenges into opportunities. The possibility of evolution opened up to the entire civilization, and the choices of each individual had a significant and continuous impact on the trajectory of the development of humanity as a whole. The continuously evolving community of minds on Earth became an example for other civilizations observing the experiment through a network of cosmic anomalies with keen interest. Ancient races that had long since undergone a similar transformation and knew that the outcome depended on the choice of path watched the process with interest. There were two paths: to dissolve into cosmic unity, losing individuality, or to find balance, preserving uniqueness in harmony with all that exists. Harmoniously combining opposites turned out to be the main task of humanity in the new era, and every day brought new lessons in this art of balance everywhere. Centers for learning to navigate multidimensional reality were formed everywhere, where the experience of those who had mastered the control of probabilities and time streams was skillfully passed on. Those who mastered the new abilities became guides for others, helping them adapt to a world where the impossible had become an everyday occurrence everywhere, all the time. The ever-expanding perception of reality opened up new layers of existence, and the journey of knowledge seemed endless, exciting, and full of incredible discoveries. The horizon of new possibilities always loomed ahead, and humanity, transformed by the cosmic anomaly, moved toward it with hope and awe of the mystery. The ultimate nature of the anomaly remained a mystery, an accident, a test, or an invitation to evolve from a higher intelligence existing beyond the comprehension of the ever-incomprehensible. Incomprehensible to the end, but beckoning to be known, such was the new world, where every day brought wonders and enormous unforeseen challenges. The unforeseen consequences of each choice taught humility and responsibility, forming a new wisdom for humanity, which had passed through the crucible of a complete and profound cosmic transformation. Those who fully accepted the changes, dissolving the boundaries of the ego and opening themselves to the flow of universal consciousness, freely and naturally, achieved a deep connection with the universe. The natural process of integration with the cosmos did not mean a loss of humanity, but rather revealed its true essence, part of an endless dance, a dance of matter and energy, consciousness and form, time and eternity. In this dance, humanity found a new meaning that transcended old definitions. The definitions of existence changed forever, and this was not the defeat of the old world, but the birth of a new, richer, more multifaceted, and amazing world. A world of endless possibilities, where each consciousness is the creator of its own reality, and all together are co-creators of a great symphony of cosmic becoming of eternal beauty. Beautiful in its complexity and unpredictability, the world after the anomaly became living proof that life is unstoppable in its quest for development. There was and will be no end to development, because each level of consciousness achieved opened up new horizons, new dimensions of experience, and infinite existence. Infinite in their diversity, paths lay before humanity, and the choice of direction depended on the collective intention of a civilization that had gained great cosmic power. This power carried great responsibility, and understanding this became the basis of a new era where wisdom was valued above knowledge and harmony above power. Power over reality was not enough for happiness. An understanding of the purpose of existence in an infinite universe, full of life and consciousness everywhere, was required. The abundant energy of the anomaly fueled not only the transformation of matter, but also the growth of spiritual understanding, revealing depths of being previously inaccessible to anyone. No one had ever been able to see the interconnection of all things so clearly before, and this vision changed the fundamental values of society completely and permanently. The illusions of separateness and competition for resources were finally discarded, For in a world of abundant opportunities, the main wealth became developed, expanded consciousness. Expanded perception allowed us to see that every moment contains a gateway to infinity, and life became a sacred and constant exploration of these gateways. The constant discovery of new facets of reality became a way of life for humanity, which stepped beyond planetary consciousness into a truly great cosmic era. The great era began with a cosmic anomaly that seemed like a threat, but turned out to be the greatest gift, a catalyst for the evolution of all life on Earth everywhere. Everywhere, there was gratitude to the universe for this challenge, which transformed fear into strength, limitations into freedom, and mortal beings into immortal travelers. Travelers through dimensions of reality, explorers of consciousness, creators of worlds. This is what people became after passing through the crucible of absolute cosmic transformation. Everything underwent a complete restructuring. Body, mind, spirit, society, planet. And in this renewal, a new form of life was born, beautiful and unprecedented. The previously unseen beauty of multidimensional existence was revealed to those who were able to let go of their fear of the unknown and accept infinity as their true home. Their home turned out to be not a planet, but the entire universe, and humanity, having overcome the test of anomaly, finally took its rightful place among cosmic civilizations. Finally, what evolution had been leading to for millions of years came to pass. The awakening of planetary consciousness and the emergence of free, enlightened, intelligent life onto the galactic stage. Enlightened by the wisdom of trials and tempered by the difficulties of transformation, humanity entered a new chapter in its history, where the beginning and the end merged together forever.